Hey there, everybody. It's Jenny Clark, GovCon Summit 2021 here with the amazing Josh Frank talking about relationships, structures, and agreements. I would love to have you participate with Josh, come up with some questions. I always like to trip him up, but I've never been able to do it. So let's see if somebody can do that. Josh, take it away.
Excellent. Hello, Jenny. And again, hello, everybody, and welcome. For those of you who are not live watching on demand, welcome as well. This is going to be a fairly short, I don't know how short, but it'll be succinct. We're going to talk about relationship structures. You know, a lot of you are being told to team, gee, should it be prime and subcontractor? Should it be mentor protege? Should it be teaming agreements? Should it be a CTA? And then what agreements go into those? Is it an NDA, a teaming agreement? There's a lot of different pieces out there. I want to make sure it's really clear. So let's go ahead and jump in. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Josh Frank. I run RSM Federal and Veteran Warehouse Supply, two companies. I'm a professional speaker. I'm an author. I'm a business coach, and I've been in the market for over 30 years. I'm former Army, so it's an oxymoron, but I'm a former intelligence officer, and I'm a huge small business advocate. Chairman of the board for the Veterans Advocacy Foundation. That's Missouri, Kansas, Iowa, Nebraska, Southern Illinois. I work with the SBA as a guest speaker, and my specialty are tactics and strategies. Now, we are going to talk tactics and strategies today as we go through the different types of relationships, etc. And I'm going to help you understand in the session why large businesses like certain relationships over others, etc. So this is going to be basic to intermediate. There shouldn't be a ton of advanced in this session. Sources saw it had some advanced. This one up to intermediate. Quite simply, we're going to talk relationships and structures in terms of how you team, and then the agreements and what all those mean. And I'm going to go into some detail on each of these. So first, let's talk the types. First, there's a partnership agreement. Partnership agreement is the type of agreement where there's really no set format for it. It's simply an agreement between two companies that say, hey, we're going to mutually engage the market. We're going to target the market together. There's no specific opportunities. It's, you know what? Hey, manufacturer, you don't currently sell to the government. For the first 2 years, we want to put an agreement in place that says everything to the government will be your distributor. If it's a services company, simply, hey, listen, let's do a partnership agreement, and here's what we agree to. Now, any agreement that we put in place, whether it's partnership or others, really should have some metrics built in. I can't tell you how many smaller businesses put agreements in place, whether it's a partnership, it's a teaming agreement, etc. And there's no metrics, perfect example, the majority of mentor protege, the majority of mentor protege relationships fail. They fail. They can be very lucrative, but I want you to imagine you put one of those agreements in place and there's nothing in there that says, hey, mentor, you're going to put us on to at least 6 proposals this year. Think about that. If that's not in your agreement, a year will go by and the mentor never even brings their protege into proposals, into agreements. You may scratch your head and go, well, how can that be? That goes against what a mentor protege agreement is for. If the metrics aren't there, the activities won't happen. So anyway, partnership agreement, simply two companies that they're going to put marketing and dollars and business development together to engage a single part of the market or the whole market. It can be whatever you want, but that's a partnership agreement. No specific opportunity. Now, let's talk opportunities for a moment. everybody hears, well, it's firm fixed price, time and material. It's an IDIQ, a MATOC, a SATOC, an IDC, a DC, a GWAC, a schedule. Okay. Everything's going to fall into one of two buckets. Okay. It's a definitive contract. In other words, it's not an umbrella contract. An IDC, every time somebody says, well, it's an IDIQ, that's an IDC. Okay. A GSA schedule is an IDC. A GWAC is an IDC. A MATOC, a multiple award task order contract, is an IDC. So it's either an umbrella contract or it's not. Okay. So you've got definitive contract and indefinite delivery. All of the, Polaris, CIO SP4, all of the big contract vehicles coming out, those were technology ones. Those are all IDCs. Okay. So it's really important we understand the terminology when we talk contracts. Now, there are 5 core relationships that companies will undertake. The first, the most common, 99%, is prime subcontractor. One company is in charge, and then they have a bunch of subcontractors underneath them, right? In a prime subcontractor relationship, only the prime has a contract with the government. Subcontractors just have an agreement with the prime, okay? Now, the sub can still use that as direct past performance. But in terms of having, and you can say, we have a contract with the government. It's a subcontract under this contract number, subbing to this company. But that's just as valuable past performance as having a prime contract. Exceptions may be management of the contract, but we won't go into that today. So prime subcontract, that's where everybody starts. Nobody gets into government and jumps straight into a joint venture. Okay. So you got prime subcontractors, number one. Joint venture. In a joint venture, why do people do joint ventures? The number one reason is to make you more competitive and for both companies to be prime. So in a joint venture, the past performance of both companies can be directly used in the proposal as the prime's past performance. So that's another reason why people will joint venture. One company will go, oh, we don't have past performance in this. The acquisition requires that 2 of the 3 past performances belong to the prime. We only have 1. I need another past performance. I'm going to have to JV, right? That's just one of several reasons you can do it. Now, putting a JV together, and we'll talk about this, you can't do this overnight. You can't do it after the RFP is dropped. You got to build a JV during pre-acquisition before the solicitation hits the street. So either the sources sought comes out, an RFI is released, or a draft or pre-solicitation is put on beta.sam, right? Or eBuy if you have a schedule. So JV, very, very powerful, but it is a separate legal entity, okay? Has its own tax ID number, has its own or its own SAM account, right? So anyway, and JVs don't have to be populated. We may get to that later. Then you've got mentor protege. Okay. Mentor protege, all small SBA, all small mentor protege program. The reason why small companies love it is because they get to build this relationship with a larger company or sometimes another small company. There's a lot of mentor proteges out there that are too small. But the majority of mentor proteges don't succeed. Now, SBA would hates when I say that kind of stuff, but it's the same thing as saying 50% of all government contractors failed to successfully win a government contract. 50% of all GSA schedule holders, right? The GSA mass, multiple award schedule, 50%, more than 50% don't make a penny. 50% of all minority firms that are certified 8A, minority or socially disadvantaged, they fail to win anything, right? Same for all the other statuses. But if you have the right mentor-protege agreement in place with the right metrics, right? Hey, mentor, as your protege, we're going to bring you on to a half a dozen of our proposals this year. But mentor, you have to do the same for us. Mentor, when we're writing proposals, we need your help writing those proposals. Don't just be a member of our team. All of these things have to be written into the agreement. They are not requirements of the SBA. The SBA simply has stuff out there that says, hey, you need to be, make sure you document how you're going to work together. Well, how you work together without metrics, odds are you're not going to do very well. Final point on this slide, at least for mentor protege. I'll come back to it. The mentor protege joint venture, we're going to talk about that as, let me go back. I do not, yes, I know, you can make a lot of money as a protege, okay? If you have the right mentor, you have the right agreement, you have the right metrics, you have the right tactics and strategies, okay? You simply can't just put this packet together and think you're going to win a lot of work. You won't, not unless you have the right tactics and strategies. This is a foot stomp. It is the most important thing I will say on today's session involving mentor protege. Do not go looking for one. Do not go looking for one. You will successfully get into a mentor protege relationship by backing into it. Okay. No mentor is going to bring you on as a protege unless they've already made money with you. Period. Doesn't matter what kind of niche product or service you have. So don't focus on getting a mentor protege. I know there are small business counselors, specialists, government employees, coaches, consultants, for-profit, nonprofit that say, oh, you got to go get this. Okay. No, it doesn't make smart business sense. Not unless you've already had successful prime subcontracting agreements and you won those contracts. No company is going to put you on their team unless you have already helped them make money. Okay. Nobody's going to mentor you. And also, they're only authorized to mentor, one per NAICS code, and I think 2 or 3 total. I'll get to that slide in a minute. Mentor protege joint venture, the most powerful of all the relationships for large businesses, not necessarily the small. Okay, because under a mentor protege joint venture, the mentor holds the same socioeconomic status as the protege. As an example, it's an 8A set aside, woman set aside, veteran, service disabled, hub, Native American. By the way, there's 70 different set asides. Yeah, 70. But we only list the big ones. Those, whatever status you have, in a mentor protege joint venture, just this one, the large business, the billion-dollar company that may be your mentor, when that proposal goes in, they are 8A. They are small. They are service disabled. Okay. So, and you're never going to get a mentor protege JV without first being in a mentor protege. Then you have a final item called a CTA, contractor or teaming agreement. Or arrangement, excuse me. That's 2 companies that both have GSA schedules that are both prime going after a GSA schedule opportunity. Okay. So those are the big ones. And then you look at those, and we're going to dive into a little bit more detail on all of these, and we'll have Q&A. First is an NDA. Most companies in the government space no longer use NDAs. Okay. There are always exceptions, and there are companies that use it, but all teaming agreements nowadays have NDAs built into them. So, if you're having a discussion about, a potential opportunity, what have you, you haven't agreed to team yet, you can sign an NDA, but don't you dare share any market intelligence, right? You never share market intelligence with another company unless you are under a signed teaming agreement. Okay. Don't mess that up, because you'll give away all your leverage and all your intelligence, and the other company goes, now we don't need you. Right. So NDA, most of our clients don't use NDA. Some do, but most don't. They just start with teaming agreement. Teaming agreement. That's it. You're a prime, you're a sub, two teams coming together, you sign a TA, right? Joint venture agreement, well, that obviously is a separate type of agreement. CTA, same thing. And then all of them flow down into a sub K, right? The contract is awarded to the prime, whether it's you or another company. And then the prime provides subcontracting agreements saying this is what you are going to do and be paid for. So these are the core relationships and agreements that companies in the federal space utilize. Okay. All right. Definitive contracts, I've already talked through it. I'm not going to go into crazy detail, but there's a definite quantity, right? Supplier service. IDC, you see the examples below, right? I call them umbrella contracts, where you don't win anything, but you're allowed to compete on task orders, and that's how you make your money. They're often referred to as IDIQ, MAX, GWAC, MATOC, et cetera, et cetera. So for me, understanding government acquisition, federal acquisition, everything falls under DC or IDC, right? So just basic education. But every time you hear IDIQ, put it this way, you will see stuff on Beta SAM that doesn't call it an IDIQ and calls it an IDC, right? And that's where a lot of the confusion comes out, because people are like, the alphabet acronym soup is killing me in the government space. Keep it simple. Definitive contracts, indefinite delivery. Okay. If it's a firm fix, if one company gets awarded, they do the project and they get the money, that's definitive contract. Everything else is going to pretty much be an IDIQ. Okay. Blanket purchase agreements. Those of you who do not focus on BPAs are out of your mind. Okay. BPAs are crazy powerful. Okay. You don't have to have a GSA schedule. You don't have to have another contract vehicle. Now, a lot of BPAs are based off of schedules because of the pricing. They are used for product services, discounts, long-term, obviously, and they're called calls. Okay. Now, very critical. A blanket purchase agreement is an agreement. It's not a contract, and it is not funded. Okay. If you win a contract, it's funded. If you win a place on a BPA, either all by yourself or you're one of two or three other companies, which is fairly common because rule of two and the requirements in the FAR for competition normally say it should be competed. But what's awesome about a BPA is that the BPA doesn't have to be funded. It's a lot easier, therefore, for an organization to go, we want to put a BPA in place. We don't have to worry about the appropriations from Congress. We don't have to worry about the funding coming down from our higher command or our higher agency level. And then you got to get that call funded, though. But having a BPA in place, you now have a contract vehicle. It's not funded. You should try to get it funded. A lot of BPAs will have a ceiling amount of, it's $1 million. But the agency can refill that every year whenever they want, or even during the year. Okay. So it's an agreement. All right. They're charge accounts. You're not going to find one beyond 5 years. That's pretty typical right now. That's pretty much it. So BPAs, if you're listening to this from a sales perspective, product or service, if somebody were to say to you, well, gee, Josh, how can I acquire your products or services? And by the way, this should be in every one of your source of sought responses. This should be on your website. It should be included in some of your proposals. But what are the acquisition options for working with RSM Federal, right? Or your company? Micro purchase, right? Small business set aside, maybe 8A sole source, maybe SDVOSB set aside, simplified acquisition procedures under FAR Part 13, SAP. Definitely blanket purchase agreement. You should push it. And then you find as you're talking to various government folks, now we're talking tactics and strategies here, you should be asking those questions. What acquisition mechanisms does your agency or military command use? A lot of people that start off don't look at BPAs. Let me tell you, you win a BPA, it can set you up for years. Okay. Now, we already talked through these, right? These 5 type of relationships. You got the prime, you got your JV, your MP, MPJV, CTA. Regardless of which one we're talking about, we do need to talk affiliation for a moment. Okay. What most of you have probably heard affiliation in government parlance. This is a bad thing. Okay. You do not want to have a finding of affiliation between you and another company on an awarded contract. Okay. Either one business controls or has the power to control another. Where does this often come into play? Small businesses that have graduated small business status, and they start the separate small company in order to go after small businesses. It's an 8A firm that has just graduated 8A. And what do? They stand up another 8A off to the side. If any of these 2 companies controls the other, that's affiliation. Okay. If any third party controls affiliation, if anybody, if you don't have obviously the 51%, revenue, but you must control 100% of daily operations. You must control 100% of the strategic direction. You must be able to control, regardless of a board of advisors, board of directors, whatever you want to call a higher, advisory council board on top of you, you must control everything. I can't tell you how much this happens. There is so much affiliation taking place in the government space because companies that have made a killing, 20, 30, $100 million, and they graduate out of certain levels, man, they are standing up folks, and they get found out and they get busted, and it goes to court, and they're not allowed to be government contractors ever again. So you need to stay away from affiliation, right? As long as you have 100% control, daily operations, the strategic direction, you'll be fine. But keep this slide, right? You'll get this deck when we're done today. Keep this slide. It's important. This is sort of, this blew me away, but right now, if let's say you get certified as 8A, right? Your wife or your husband cannot then start an 8A. They're looking at it from a family perspective, right? And so civil unions, married couples, et cetera, they're looking for that kind of stuff. If you were given loans, even if you control 100% of daily operations in the strategic direction, there's like 20 other things. They're just not coming to mind. I've got a list of them, but you're getting funding. Even though you control that, you control your destiny. If 70% of the receipts, though, over 3 years are coming from somebody else, that dependence, that's considered affiliation. Okay. If you partner with a large company and they own the majority of your company, that's affiliation, right? Prime subcontract, I've already walked through this at a high level, so I'm not going to read the slide to you. Okay. But the prime, they're the one that releases the teaming agreement. The teaming agreement is provided from the prime to the sub. It happens in reverse when the prime doesn't know what they're doing and the sub says, I'll take care of the teaming agreement, which is awesome for you because you get to pretty much put in everything you want, right? But anyway, I talked through most of this already. Key point. If you don't have a signed teaming agreement, you're not on the team. I don't care what kind of emails you have back and forth. It doesn't matter what kind of promises have been made to you, gentlewoman agreements. If you don't have a teaming agreement signed by both companies, you're not on the team, period. So all of you that sell product or all of you that sell service and you are subcontracting to another company, you must have a teaming agreement in place. You must. If you don't, they can turn around and give it to somebody else. Okay. Joint venture. again, strategic alliance, 2 or more companies. You know, you can only have 3 of these over a 2-year period. That is like opportunities, right? Or contracts that you win under that JV. Now, some people go, well, what happens if we win the first 3 contracts? Well, you can, as long as the proposals are submitted, you can continue to be awarded. You know, there's some companies that have had 8 or 9 contracts under the same JV, but that's because all the proposals had already been submitted by the time 3 contracts had been awarded to the JV. But don't worry about it. You can stand up as many JVs as you want. I mean, I think it's silly. The rules don't specify, you know, that you can only do 1. So you could stand up a JV and tomorrow stand up another one. You have a lot of flexibility, right? If you are certified 8A, veteran, service disabled, etc., those JVs have to be approved by the government. Okay. Both companies are the prime in a JV. That's great for you. It's prime past performance. And they don't have to be populated. So you don't have to have actual employees within the JV. You can fill them as you win contracts, which is just freaking awesome. Right. And again, no affiliation. I'll just leave this. I've already talked through it, but I'll leave it on the slide for you. Obviously, all companies in a JV for a small set aside, in this case, SWSB, must all be small under the NAICS. The SWSB has to be the managing company, and they have to certify 51%. Even though it's a JV, 51% has to go to the SWSB. Okay, this just sort of flows down from many of the other requirements. The all small mentor protege program, right? There's about 750 right now agreements out there. Mentors can only compete for those set aside contracts, right? Through a JV, mentor protege JV. That's that real powerful one I told you about, right? Interestingly, mentor can own 40% of the JV, and it just requires both companies be registered in SAM. If it's a JV, the JV must also be registered in SAM. Okay. This again, I talked about this briefly at the start. This is what large companies love about mentor protege. They want the JV, right? But again, protege has to still own 51% of the JV, perform 40%. Take these slides, use them down the road as you're trying to figure pieces out. The mentor can still own 40%. Mentors can only have 3 proteges at a time, and it's per NAICS code, right? And you as a protege, now this may have changed. I'm going to have to, I thought I saw something in the FAR on this, but at the time I put the slide together, the protege can only have 2 mentors in its lifetime. So this is not like prime subcontracting where you can have just a ton. You need to select your mentors very carefully and absolutely ensure that there are metrics in that mentor protege agreement that get signed with SBA. Okay. CTA, again, this is for 2 GSA schedule holders, right? Both company has to have a schedule. You create a CTA and you actually submit it with your bid, right? But what this does is it allows both companies to sell the other company's products and services without you adding it to your schedule, right? Each company responsible for their IFF. GSA doesn't review or approve these. You just have to have them included in your bid, okay? From an agreement, we already talked the partnership piece. It's not used for specific opportunities. There's a set time period. 2 companies, their marketing teams get together, their sales teams get together, and they build a strategy for the market. That's a partnership agreement. You will never sign a partnership agreement for a specific opportunity. That's what a teaming agreement is for, right? It is the most powerful, important tools for teaming you're going to use in the federal space. Okay. I already said it's given by the prime to the sub. There are exceptions, and it should be mandatory. If you're not doing teaming agreements, you are risking a lot. Okay. Oh, very important point. Do not wait for the RFP or the RFQ. Now, if the first time you see an opportunity, it's the RFP or the RFQ, so be it. You put teaming agreement in place as fast as possible based on you finding a team to get on or subs to put on your team. If it's pre-acquisition before the RFP and the RFQ are released, it's a sources sought, it's a request for information, it's a draft solicitation, a pre-solicitation, or you're having discussions with a government prospect and you learn about an opportunity that's not yet on the street. Any of those, sources sought, etc., you put the teaming agreement in place, or you get the prime to give you one and you sign it before it moves into acquisition, RFP, RFQ. It will be much more difficult for you to get on the team that you want to get on as a sub if you don't get a teaming agreement signed before the RFP, RFQ hits the street, right? So what is the focus? Your focus should be pre-acquisition. If I go down this rabbit hole a little bit further, 80%, excuse me, 80% of companies, 90% of companies spend 80% of their time responding to RFPs and RFQs. Successful companies that win government contracts spend 80% of their time building a sales strategy that is focused on pre-acquisition. 80% of your time is not looking for opportunities on Beta SAM. 80% of your time is building the right relationships, engaging the right organizations, your strategic targets, building relationships, collecting intelligence. Okay. Therefore, knowing what we know about the success in the federal space, you always get the teaming agreement signed, if you can, before acquisition moves forward. Okay. This is one of the most difficult areas for small business. Can I get a guarantee of work? If two large companies get together, like CACI and SAIC or Northrop Grumman, Lockheed Martin, whatever, you can bet your butt they're going to have mandatory percentages in their teaming agreement, because both of them could pretty much be primes on their own if they wanted to, but they came together because they want to use their joint past performance. Mandatory guarantee work percentages are normal between larger companies. It is highly unusual for a small business to get any guarantee of work with larger companies. It's very common, though, between smaller companies and smaller and mid-sized companies. Okay. Now, if your company has a niche, you have some level of differentiation or a crazy awesome past performance that is like, is perfect for the opportunity, then yes. So this is why market intelligence is so important, right? If you see an opportunity out there online, don't immediately call a teaming partner. First thing you do is you call the government, try to collect some intelligence, so that when you call the teaming partner, potential teaming partner, and they go, oh yeah, we've got a lot of companies trying to get on our team. You go, well, I've spoken to the government and we've started to collect intelligence on this. And the larger company goes, really? What did the government say? What's the number one mistake that small businesses then make? Yeah, they give their intelligence. Well, we heard this and we heard that. You just gave up all your leverage. The answer is, look, I'd love to tell you what the government told us. However, just like your company, we have a corporate policy that we don't provide market intelligence unless we are under a teaming agreement. Sign a teaming agreement with me. I'll tell you what intel I have, right? So what if they won't give you a percentage? Well, try to go in through the back door. Say, okay, all right, instead of giving us, 20% revenue or guaranteeing us 10 bodies. How about this? We want task area 3 of the 5 or the 10 task areas. Give us task area 3. You can give everything else to the rest of the team. If they say yes to that, that is the same as saying, sure, we'll give you 15 bodies, 15 FTEs, right? You're just trying to, it's semantics, but try to negotiate with them. And this has worked in the past. Okay. Exclusivity. This is probably the second most important thing that I'm going to talk about today on this session. Exclusivity is normal in the federal space. Okay. Every teaming agreement, almost every teaming agreement that you are going to find and receive is going to have a paragraph for exclusivity. You are not allowed to be on any other teams. You are not allowed to subcontract to anybody else. Okay. Why? Because you're going to help us with the proposal. You're going to understand and hear what our strategies are. You're going to understand maybe what our win themes are. By God, you are not going to another company, being on another team, and somehow giving our secret sauce to them. That's normal. That's expected. Now, there are some companies that go, yeah, but we've been called by these 3 different companies. They all want us on their team. If we're on each team, oh, we got 3 eggs in the basket. We've just tripled our ability to be on a winning team. Heck yeah, we want to be on all teams. And then they get the TAs and they call me and they go, all right, Josh, how the hell do we do? How do we deal with this? Every one of these contract agreements, teaming agreements, has an exclusivity clause. We want to be on all teams. We want to ask to remove it. And I said, okay, here's the deal. You can do that, but here's the danger of being on 2 or more teams. I want you to imagine the following, okay? Let's say, Joanne, you approach me, Joanne, and you say, Josh, yes, we want to be on your team. But Josh, there's this company out here that we've been working with for 2 years. Really good relationship with them. And Josh, even though I know they have no freaking chance of winning this, right? They're nowhere near, Josh, what your company is. But we can't not be on their team. It would destroy 2 years of good faith and blah, blah, blah. Okay. You may convince me and I may go, okay, Joanne, I'm going to remove that clause for you. And you are all excited. Jump forward 6 months. The contract is awarded. My team wins. You are excited because of the 3 teams you were on or 2 teams you were on, one of them won. The first task order comes out and it is, Joanne, it is for exactly what your company does. And now you're even more excited. But there's 1 or 2 other companies. There are 10 companies on my team. And there are 2 that they may not have the perfect past performance you have, but they can do what you can do. The odds are you'll be lucky if you get 5%, because I'm going to give the work to the other 2 companies. I'm going to give that work to the other 2 companies. Why? Because you, Joanne, I'm using you as an example, did not share the risk. This is like a chessboard. Okay. Now this is an advanced discussion topic that we're going through right now. Every single subcontractor on my team, the other 9 companies, all signed exclusivity in their teaming agreements. You are the only one that did not sign exclusivity. Therefore, you didn't share the risk. Therefore, you are not entitled to equal representation and positions and revenue when I win a task order. Now, there is not a single prime that is going to say this to you, but I'm telling you, this is how it works behind the scenes. You want to be on multiple teams? That's great. But you are less likely to make money when you're on multiple teams and one of them wins. It's the craziest. It would be the reverse, you would think, right? But no, you failed to share the risk. So think about that. The next time, I'm not saying don't do it. I'm saying, but you have to gauge and measure your risk on an opportunity by opportunity basis. Another thing, okay, let's say you are on two teams. You decide, I remember what Josh said. I think it's still the right decision. In those situations, you must create a screen. You must run a screen. That means this is what happens when two companies, you're in proposal phase, right? Because if you're on my team helping me with the proposal, there's no way I want you to talk to somebody else. If you're on another team, you can say, no, look, Josh, I'm working with you. And there's a wall, a screen between what I'm doing with the company and what Mike is doing with the other company that we're on. Okay. That screen also applies to if you're lucky enough to be on two winning teams for an IDC, for an indefinite delivery contract, IDIQ, MATOC, SATOC, MAC, etc. You must run screens because legally some company can come and sue you if they believe they lost a task order or a contract because you were on multiple teams. You've got to be able to prove that you're not talking to the other person in your company and both people are siloed off. Okay. So that's how you eliminate conflict of interest with two teams. And with that, I really ran through a ton of stuff. First, game changers. If you're a podcast groupie, if you like to hear, if you learn by hearing, we actually just crossed 125,000 downloads. I think that's what Mike told me earlier this week. And so you can go listen. We interview experts all over the country supporting small business and midsize. If you don't know who I am, you've never read any of our books, start with Insider's Guide. It's on Amazon. And then, so you've got the books, you got the free podcast. And if you want all the templates and step-by-step strategies that I teach to our clients and all of our coaches teach to our clients, if you use that discount code GovCon 2021 at federal-access.com, first month is like $29. There's no contract. You don't like it, you're gone. But everything I bear on the market, everything my team bears on the market, strategy, templates, what have you, is all there. With that, I would like to thank everybody that was here live today. For those two of you that I have done a deal with, send me an email to the contact at RSM Federal with the statement, Josh, you owe me, and I'll know exactly who you are. And then I'll get you on my calendar down the road. With that, Jenny, I'm going to turn it back over to you for some Q&A and see if anybody has any comments.
Oh, Josh, you're always so good at making people get, hear a different version of what's going on. What I'd like to do is put everybody in the gallery view. And okay. I think we just need you to turn off your share. So we should do that.
Okay.
And there's been a lot of activity in the chat. And does anybody have any questions? And what you could do for the questions, if you want to, is down at the bottom, there's a little reaction and there's a hand raised. Go ahead.
All right. So while anybody's raising hands or doing whatever, Chanel, no, bring that video back. Bring that video back. All right. You were on my last session and I meant to ask you, what the heck is Snorkel with that awesome logo? And you were gone before I could ask, who are you and what do you do?
I just joined Snorkel. I'm their business development and capture manager.
Okay.
But I've been in federal government contracting for about 15 years. And I help businesses of all sizes with strategy and business development. But they're an AI company. And so they help companies that are using AI with the hand labeling. So it reduces the human interaction and it does automated hand labeling for training data.
Awesome. Well, tell the owner of Snorkel that the presenter was like, that is just an awesome logo. And I had to ask what you were, who you are, and you got to introduce. So very cool. Very cool.
Thank you. Yeah.
All right. So Jenny, back to you
So-
on Q&A.
Yeah, so Anitria, we had a great session earlier today, Josh, with several of us that were talking about this basically global health emergency management. And I came up with this crazy idea, and I was like, I don't know if this is a good idea or not, but I look at all these small businesses with great talent, but individually they don't have a way to go after these after a big enough opportunity, they're looking for ways they could share cost. And the example we were talking about was there's work with the CDC, World Health Organization, for training curriculum. And we got several parties that have background in curriculum and cybersecurity and other things that are related. And I was like, why don't you guys form an all small mentor protege joint venture and do it? And I probably made it sound way easier than it is. So the whole thing about it is like, whenever I see all small mentor protege, I would say, okay, here's the cool part. You could have a large company that can't touch that work because it's set aside for certain small, but they could fund and support you. But what would it take for them to have the trust in the small business to do that? Your comment was, well, you've got to have done business with them before.
That's right.
And here's what we're seeing, especially in this global health emergency contact stuff. The big companies are like Deloitte and GDIT and Booz Allen and those things. And, you know, it's like, I couldn't get a phone number in there if I wanted to.
And you're not going to, here, hold on one second. Oh, air conditioner is going on. Woohoo! All right. Yeah, I mean, the challenge. Come here, Jay. Oh. Hello. Sorry, bear with me. Can we all say COVID together? Yes. Yes.
COVID.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you. Jay, would you take her?
No.
No.
Rejected.
I got rejected for a kiss. Y'all know how that works with smoking. All right. Just me? All right, great. So there are challenges of bundling small companies together. Okay. Because at the end of the day, you need past performance. You need direct past performance as a prime or as a sub. You know, yes, you can get some past performance through a group, everybody bundling together, because what you're talking is it's some sort of teaming arrangement. 5 or 6 companies that are all coming together because they're just too small. You're never going to do mentor protege with that. You're never, you may do JV, right? And don't forget, you can do a JV between 2, 3, 4 companies and still have other subcontractors under the JV, right? There's no rule on that. But companies, I would recommend, it's just my opinion, just my opinion. That's a one-off. That's there's a really good opportunity, and we're all going to just kumbaya, come together under some agreement and jointly engage, right? But from a corporate growth perspective, you really need to subcontract to a larger company that's going to do 70% of the contract, give you 30% of the revenue or 30% of the positions or 30% of whatever they're going to give you, win the contract, successfully execute. Now you have a strong past performance. When you're a sub, your past performance is just as applicable as if you were a prime. If you respond to a bid, your sub past performance is just as powerful as if you were prime. 90% of small businesses get their first 3 or 4 contracts as a subcontractor, okay? And then they go prime. Now, that being said, I've probably got a half a dozen of our clients. None of them have sub work. They're all primes. All their contracts have been primes. And the industries run all over the place. If you're IT, if you don't have a direct specific niche, you need to be subbing, right?
Yeah.
So there's no right answer here to any of this. But I would say, Jenny, that those 4 or 5 companies, 6, whoever you guys were all talking, right? Just keep kumbayaing on that. But JV's probably your best option. Mentor protege, no, not because you can only be in 2 mentor protege relationships unless that's changed. And
I don't think it's changed yet.
Okay.
And so many of these things take so much effort to pull off that you've got to be pretty darn sure it's going to work. And I don't want to tell people that they should go down that path. And that's part of the reason why you're on the call, because, I'm the finance person. I make it all sound simple, but the real hard part is, how do you sell? How do you find the customer? How do you go? Now, the other thing I did, when we started, so when COVID hit, one of my clients had work as a subcontractor at CDC, and CDC only is doing 8As basically. So all of the prime contracts are let as 8As. And so I thought, well, I can fix this. I will just text people on LinkedIn that have that contract and said, can we have a piece of it? And surprisingly enough, nobody was interested. Because they've already got the work. Why would they give anything to you, even if you have a very specific skill set? And this was a very specific skill set that they had.
Yeah, that goes to the old saying, here's the question: how do you get onto? You missed a contract vehicle. You failed to get on a team. The contracts have been awarded. How do you get a piece of that work? And so many small business offices, small business counselors, coaches, paid consultants, everybody says, well, you got to get onto the team. You got to call them up and convince them to put you on the team. That is maybe possible, but not probable, right?
Yeah.
Nobody's going to put you onto a winning team. First of all, if I was on a winning, if let's say I'm a sub and I'm on a team of 12 companies, and the prime says, hey guys, first task order is coming out and I'm bringing on, we're going to add this one company to our team. I'd be like, whoa, 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 whoa. I spent a year positioning with you to get on the team. I spent 3 months helping you write the proposal. I sat 6 months in source selection. This task order, my company can do it. Don't you dare add another company to this team. That is unacceptable. It's unethical. Well, now that I explained it that way, you're not going to get onto another team. Not often, right? So anyway, what you said made me think of that. And for those of you, hello, everybody, I'm Josh. I go on soapboxes every now and then, so bear with me.
Well, and I think that's part of the reason that you're part of this group, is because you give people the real story instead of all this, oh, just do this.
Yeah,
And
you know what it is? And I say this in all my sessions, it's not about government sales, folks. It's not about selling to the government. Yes, you need to know how to spell government, but it's not about selling to the government. It is about business strategy.
Mm-hmm.
That's what it is. My job, my company, what we do is we help bridge government sales strategy with business strategy. So in terms of this session, what we're talking, you should be thinking more about your business strategy more so than simply winning a government contract.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
any other questions? Because my house is burning to the ground as I speak. There's a lot of background taking place right now. So any other questions?
Can I make a recommendation?
Sure.
Yeah. So I work with the startups and non-traditional companies integrating. If you want to get onto a team, the best thing to do is to, as Josh said, if it's a mature team, then the chances are less likely because someone has already been a part of the positioning and they pretty much owe them, their space on the team or some allocated some of the work. I would suggest looking at the opportunities that you want to go after and try to at least reach out to those companies, because you can track when contracts are ending. You need to do your market analysis for your intelligence and go to them before, like the year before or 9 months before, so that you can have a better chance of getting on the team. Also, if you're going to go after something and you have no past performance, if you're in tech, you can try to do the prototypes. They have demo days now, white papers, but also you may want to position yourself by getting key personnel that have past experience in that program or for that office, because it will help you to like validate, you know, that you have some type of subject matter expertise. Also, for GSA and tech, they have Springboard, which is a pilot program, and the owner can use their professional experience to expedite their way into schedule awards. So those are just some suggestions.
Love Springboard. You know, and you're absolutely right, Chanel. And just to verify everybody that sees us now and on demand, that focus of reach out to them a year before, that's the 80% pre-acquisition. You're focused before bids hit the street, right? So Chanel, thank you. That is, yes.
Welcome.
Awesome, awesome, awesome. All right. What is the process of operating as a pass-through? Jenny, can you read that whole thing to me?
What's the process of operating as a pass-through as it relates to the percentage and tracking metrics?
Okay.
And I think that would be if I was a subcontractor and you were the prime.
Well, pass-through is a really nasty phrase in government. You know, I actually have this, there's something called CUF, commercially useful function. There is no direct CUF outlined. The Department of Transportation has their own CUF. Every agency talks about it a little bit, but there's no standardized CUF. But you know, you have to control the pricing. If it's product, you have to touch the product. If it's service, you can't simply 1099 to the prime, 1099 the prime's employees, and then add a margin on top. There's a lot of different answers to your question. Bottom line, I look at it not from a number of FTEs. I look at it from a revenue perspective. 51% of the revenue needs to be coming to your company, period. Okay. And that means W-2, W-9, W-2 employees, not 1099. And by the way, 1099 doesn't count towards your FTE count. There's a lot of little intricacies here. Now, there are some exceptions. There's the, you know, manufacturing rule. So, you know, you could be a distributor reseller for various commodities and products. You don't even have to touch the product. It can be drop shipped directly from the manufacturer. And I'm very familiar with that because one of my companies does a lot of product sales to the VA. But I'm not sure I answered the question, but I'm sorry, I got caught. I'm like a goldfish. I saw the word pass through and I got lost. So did I answer the question?
That was my question, Jenny, if I may, because literally I'm happy you did this session, because as soon as we changed from sole source to this session, I had a email come through, and we have the NDA signed, and this company wants to leverage my hub zone certification. I know right now, because of some other IDIQs that I'm working with, I don't want to commit resources to this. So pass through may be the wrong word, but what is the best structure that I need to put in place if I decide to move forward with this organization?
So that's a great question. And I had this discussion, this very topic. The gentleman said to me earlier today, he goes, look, I've got to shift my priorities. I'm on enough teams, but I still got these other companies that want to utilize our status, that want me to be on their team so that they're more competitive, right? In those situations, you simply send them an email and say, look, yes, you're going to need, I'll allow it. You can use our past performance, you can use our status, but I'm going to need a teaming agreement from you. Always, always, always need a teaming agreement. You're going to have to, if it's the only opportunity, you're on no other teams, sign the exclusivity, who cares? If not, say you'll have to remove the exclusivity. And because of how crazy hectic we are right now coming out of COVID, make up whatever excuse you want, I'm going to provide you with three things. I'm going to provide you with a corporate logo. I'm going to provide you with a corporate write-up, corporate history, who we are, and I'll provide you with a past performance. You've got it from there. I'm not going to be on team calls. I'm not going to be a part of the proposal process, et cetera, et cetera. Now, you should expect, though, that if they win and there's anybody else on the team that can do the work you can do, you're not getting any work. Okay?
Okay.
This is business. If all you did was throw me some things and sign a teaming agreement, but my other partners worked with me all through the process, they're going to get the work. But there's a possibility you'll get a couple of positions.
Okay.
So that's how I would work with a company. You're like, I really don't have time. Sure, I'll be on the team, but I'm not going to do exclusive. Regardless of the exclusive piece, say, look, you can use us. It's not a pass-through. That teaming agreement is going to specify you guarantee us 10% of the revenue. The teaming agreement is going to guarantee 5 FTEs in the first 12 months. If it's an IDIQ and there's going to be task orders, any task order that involves these labor categories that provide these functions over the next 2 years, you guarantee us, 15% of any of the positions for any task order one, right? If somebody's willing to sign that teaming agreement and you're on a winning team, right? And because you're a team of 1 or 2 or 3 people right now, you send them those 3 items: logo, corporate history, 1 past performance.
Okay.
That's how
Thank
you protect your time.
Okay, thank you. I appreciate that.
You're welcome. That'll be $10. All right, what's next?
Gosh, this is Anitria.
Hello there.
We met in Tampa, I guess a few years back.
Yes, we did.
And I need about 50 gazillion more hours with you. So I do need. So I wanted to get some help and some info on the coaching, because I'm trying to do some things now.
Okay.
And you gave some very valuable insight.
Oh.
Certainly with the metrics. I'm in a situation right now where I'm in a teaming agreement with no metrics. So you know what that spells: disaster.
Yeah.
So
hey, tell you what, just email me.
okay.
Email me. Probably next week or week after. I'll just get you on the. We can talk. We'll
Okay.
talk.
Thank
So
you.
You got my email, contact at RSM?
Yes. Yes.
Beautiful.
Yes.
Beautiful. Okay. Sounds good.
Okay. Well, I
Jenny?
think we covered all of it. And thanks so much, Josh. It's always great to have you on. I learned something from every one of these things about the bad advice I'm giving people and why I always send them to you instead of answering those questions.
Awesome. And one final thing, Alan, I freaking love your background. First of all, I obviously Black, but the chair, the 2 pictures behind you, right? It's like the whole color scheme. You've got the bright yellows. Do you use this for all of your webinar or for all online meetings?
I do. This is my desk.
That's freaking awesome. I mean, it's like a perfect video.
I appreciate it.
No, you betcha. You betcha. All right, I gotta go. The kids are exploding. The dog is hungry, and I need a glass of wine. So, thanks,
All
everyone.
right. Thanks a bunch, everybody.